the climate's very important to us here at AssetLab. And we have a community value that we use that really, I think, aligns with climate and our team, our people, our business peers, vendors, and the clients we serve. And thinking about community is really, to me, the connection we have to climate. And as you may or may not be aware, at Asset Lab and all of the brands that we have, including Balloon Suite and Butterflyly and Tat Sites and others, we measure our carbon emissions and we offset those emissions. And it's basically a start to how we really minimize the impact or leave Earth better than the way we found it. Since 2020, we've measured our carbon emissions, using a model of our own emissions from our own operations, as well as the impact of the marketing that we create and the use of that marketing. So we're a little unique in that regard. We're not just measuring the electricity used by the machines in the data centers. We're actually modeling the electrical usage of mobile phones and laptops and desktop computers using the internet to access the website of our clients, as well as our own websites. So we're taking it to, there's looking at the money we're spending and the resources we're using with our vendors and suppliers, but then we're going beyond that to look at the life cycle of usage on the marketing that we create and manage and serve for our customers as well. So here we're just past the end of 2022, and so it's time for us to work on the solution we're going to use to offset our emissions from last year. For last year, our model for carbon emissions is that from our own operations, there were 21 tons of carbon emitted, and from client websites and marketing, there were 62 tons. So right there, you can see the difference, right? Our own emissions are 1/3 of what we model the use of the marketing that we create emits. So that's to me why it's so important that we go to that next step. It's not only the part that we do, it's not only our computers and our desks and our electrical usage and that kind of thing and our equipment. It's also all of that usage of the marketing we create. So I think you get the point there. For 2022, our total emissions are 83 tons. And so what we work to do is we work to find a partner that we can work with to do some sort of offset project. For the last couple of years, we've worked with Forterra's carbon capture program, which is a great program here in the Puget Sound. They're planting trees in public spaces, a variety of different spaces, to capture carbon, and they model essentially the amount of carbon that will be captured over the typical life of a tree in a space like this. And we've worked with them for the last couple of years. Jessica and I have been to tree planting activities and things with them. It's a lot of fun. For this year, we're looking to do something different. And so if you have ideas on different things we can do, I would love to hear them as well. A couple of our ideas that we're working on are, number one, we're looking to find an abandoned oil well that is now leaking. It's very, very common for old oil wells prior to there being tight regulations on how you cap a used well. It's common for them to start leaking methane in particular. And methane is 80 times more powerful from a greenhouse gas and a warming kind of standpoint than carbon. And so if we can take care of 1 ton of methane emissions, it's equivalent to 80 tons of carbon emissions. So that would be a fantastic way for us to contribute to a project that has an ongoing impact, because that well is leaking every single day, right? So if we can cap that well, it's a very long lifetime of positive benefit. So that's one area we're considering. And there's a nonprofit in this space. It's called the Well Done Foundation. Their home base is in Montana. And so that's a possibility of what we'll do for the 2022 offset. Another possibility we've been looking into, but hasn't quite been as good of a fit yet, is to steward or purchase or get the rights to secure some mature forest. So I think something a lot of people don't understand when it comes to the life of trees and reforestation and carbon sequestration and things like that associated with planting trees is that when a tree is young and when an ecosystem is young, and a forest ecosystem is actually a net carbon emitter. It's not until those trees and that ecosystem matures that it becomes a net carbon sink. And so we can't just look at the trunk of the tree and the limbs and say, okay, well, there's this much carbon in there, and so we have sequestered this much carbon. You actually have to look at the soil and the forest, because that tree is going to drop needles or drop leaves, and those are going to decompose. And when that happens, there's going to be carbon emitted. And so there's actually a whole ecosystem around that tree there. And so we're also kind of working on developing the idea of securing a small area of forest, essentially, to act as a carbon sink. That would need to be mature forest, because we're not just looking to buy freshly replanted forest, because we know that's an emitter, that's not a sink yet. And so we're kind of toying with that idea. We're kind of developing that idea, and I haven't found any nonprofits specifically that help with this particular space yet, in this particular kind of use case that I'm describing. But those are a couple of our ideas for what we do to offset our 2022 emissions. If you have other ideas or other connections, or if our ideas and what we're doing spark additional thoughts, I would love to know. In 2022, we joined the Climate Pledge. You can look them up, climatepledge.org. It was created by Amazon and some other companies to provide a path forward to help particularly large businesses get focused on measuring, modeling, reporting, and offsetting carbon emissions on the path toward being carbon neutral by 2040. At AssetLab, we're already there. We're very fortunate to have started early in our life, before we became huge and difficult to measure and offset. But we've joined the Climate Pledge this year. And if you're looking for a way to, as an owner, to show that you care about climate and the environment, and leaving the environment in a better situation than you found it as a business, there are lots of nonprofits out there that you can learn about, you can work with. There's a variety of different climate commitments you could join. Pledge 1% is another one that we're a member of. So 1% of our net, we're committed to spending on improving climate, improving the environment per year. So so far those numbers have all worked out, where the 1% of net has been less than the investment we've made for carbon offsetting. But there's lots of ways that you can show that as a business that you care, and that it matters to your business, and help your partners and vendors and clients all understand that as well. So I encourage you, if there's not something you're doing there and you want to be public about that and make sure that everyone knows, take the time to go find an organization or a program that you think matches your values and what your business is trying to do. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, I'd love to hear them. And if you want to read more, see a little bit more detail about how we model and our trend of emissions and things like that, you can find that on AssetLab. And be sure to comment and let us know what you think.